Hey guys, welcome to Boone County Cryptids, where we chase the country's most chilling legends, one eerie story at a time. Hey guys, it's Wyatt, your host. I don't have a guest this week, so you're just going to get me, but I think we can make do. Uh, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and want to shout out to a couple of shows. Uh, Everybody go check out the Nightmare Hunters with D.A. Roberts and Robbie Rains and Steve. And check out the Cryptid podcast with Daniel Hamilton. Another great show. He was my last guest. And go check out Mysteries Unknown with Joshua Smith. Guys, there's a lot of shows. I would love to call everybody out, but it would take quite a while. But just know, if I didn't mention you guys, I really enjoy your shows. I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight. I've never done before. I've never added any videos or pictures to the broadcast before. I'm going to try to do that. Hopefully it will show up. I don't have the best version of StreamYard, and my laptop's old, so hopefully it does a good job. But if not, we'll try it again some other time. But I've told my encounters on several shows before, and some of you have probably heard them. But I'm hoping this reaches some of the people that I haven't heard them as well. But I'm just going to kind of go over my stuff tonight and see how that goes. So anyway, I grew up in Kingston, Arkansas. It's about an hour east of Fayetteville, Arkansas. So if you're looking on a map, you can kind of pinpoint where it was at. I'm going to go over how I kind of got involved in the field. My grandpa, when I was about 10 or 11 years old, he showed up at my house one day after I got off the school bus, I believe. I could be wrong. He may have been there then I got off the school bus, but this has been 20-something years ago, so my memory is not fresh. But anyway, I used to live about 11 or 12 miles out on a county dirt road. And a big part of the area, it was covered in dense canopy. I mean, so you can kind of imagine, if you believe in cryptids, Bigfoot, dogman, this was vast area for them to live in, very good spot. So anyway, my grandpa shows up, and he walks up and he tells me, I seen a Bigfoot walk across the road. And, being 10 or 11 years old, I believe that's what sparked my interest in the whole field. Anyway, my first encounter, it happened out in the Ozark National Forest where we go to deer camp. It's about 12 miles from Boxley, Arkansas. We call the area Cave Mountain. But anyway, we were at deer camp, and I went to my spot that I normally go, up around the fire tower. The fire tower sets up on the top of the hill. And what a fire tower is it's a tower that people used to man, and they'd go up on the fire tower, and every so often they'd look around the forest and see if they could see smoke rising from anywhere. And those towers saved a lot of acres of forest whenever they were using them. They don't use them. I don't know if they use them as much today. I don't think they even use them at all today. My uncle actually manned that fire tower that I always hunt below. He manned it years ago. There was actually a little house they lived in by it. But anyway, I'm getting ready to go down to my place that I hunt. Now this is out on the Ozark National Forest, so I don't bring a stand out there. I just go down there and I sat beside a big tree and wait for the deer to walk by. Anyway, what made my first encounter a little weird was before I went down there, this other group of hunters came up and they asked if I'd seen their buddy. I guess he'd kind of walked out of their camp that morning and they hadn't seen him since. And I don't believe anything ever happened with this because I was there that weekend and there wasn't any game wardens out looking for anybody or forestry service. So I'm about 99.9% sure the guy probably showed back up. They didn't ask me to help look for him or anything. After that, I start walking down into where I'm going to sit. And I start hearing, before I got to my truck, I start hearing what I can only describe as wood knocks. Now, it didn't sound like a real, crisp wood on wood thing. It was more of a damp wood on wood. It wasn't like two Louisville sluggers being busted together. I'm not saying it was Bigfoot, but that's kind of what I came up with. My buddy actually came out of the woods a while later after that had happened. And he came and sat down beside me at the tree, and we were sitting there for a little while, and I told him what happened. And he's like, well, do you think it could have been a woodpecker? I'm like, well, I've heard a woodpecker before, and it didn't really sound like that. So anyway, later on that night, I go back to camp, and I start telling everybody about it. Of course, if you bring up the word Bigfoot, the people that don't believe you, they're going to say, what do you think it was this or that? So I kind of left it at that. I guess my next experience, I'm nervous as a cat on a tin roof by myself, and I don't even know why. But anyway, my next experience, it occurred at our personal property near Vendor, Arkansas in March or April of around 2022. We were morel mushroom hunting one day. My wife, my daughter, and my wife's mom and dad were with us. Morel mushroom hunting they're like a delicacy around here. Everybody hunts them in the springtime. That's usually when they grow the best. And, if you come up on a big patch of those, you're doing something. So anyway, while we're out doing that, I hear what I can only describe as a baby crying in the woods. Now, a lot of people say a baby crying in the woods, so what? But from what I've read or researched, basically by watching videos mainly, that can be attributed to Bigfoot, because they say that Bigfoot uses that to lure women and children out into the woods, preying on their maternal instinct. I heard that. Sounded like a baby crying in the woods. And I asked my wife, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah. And the only reason I kind of feel like it might have been a Bigfoot was because my wife and little girl were with me that day. And her mom and dad were there too. Her mom being another female. There are other properties that surround ours. So perhaps it was another family outside their house with a baby crying, and maybe that's where I heard it from. But my heart tells me it wasn't an actual baby crying. It was a good chance it could have been a Bigfoot. Maybe it was a big cat. Who knows? I don't ever attribute 100% that any of this is Bigfoot, but these are just my experiences. All right. Now, in November of 2022, I was back out on my property. I was deer hunting. I went and that morning I'd walked around the bottom side of this hill in the field, and I'd made my way down into this little valley. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear something growl at me. Now, it wasn't real loud. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't real loud. It was like, I'm like, okay, I'm moving. So I got up and I walked back out the way I'd came, only I walked in the field, not down in the woods this time. And I walked back around the property the other direction. And I went to the completely opposite side of the property. When I got over there and got back down in the woods a little ways, I hear the same thing. So at this time, I'm thinking I've either got something following me or there's two different things out here. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe. It's kind of weird. So I walk on down. And then out of the corner of my eye, something drops out of a tree. And of course, I've already had this happening, like the two growls. I'm thinking, I wonder if maybe that was, I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. What if that was one of them spider crawling way down on the ground? Now, I will say I don't think that's what it was for sure, but that it did run through my mind. I think it was probably I caught a squirrel that jumped out of a tree. Whatever it was black out of the corner of my eye. It could have been an actual different color, but I just caught it out of the peripheral. So anyway, that was a little spooky. So I walked and I decided, well, I'm getting time to get out of the woods a little ways. So I back out and I've got my 7 mag. I've got it facing down in the woods and I'm backing out. I didn't leave right away, but I definitely wasn't sitting down as far in the woods as I was. Now my next experience happened the same place my first one did. Pretty close, not the exact same area, not below the fire tower, but it happened at our actual camp. We were at squirrel camp this time. We have what we call squirrel camp every year. Instead of deer hunting, we just squirrel hunt. Anyway, we were all there. We're doing our thing around the campfire and stuff, and it's time to go to bed. My buddy's dad had brought his squirrel dog out there. And so, use true squirrels and stuff. But anyway, when we all went to bed, we were all laying there. This is an old camper that's been modified with a bunch of bunk beds. And we're all laying there, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, his dog starts barking, and it's doing kind of a semicircle around the camp. So that's kind of piqued my curiosity. So I'm laying there. And all of a sudden, I hear the handle of the camper, the doorknob. I hear it start jiggling. I'm thinking, it's jiggling there for just a little bit. I had my 10 millimeter. It was sitting on a table across over there by the door. I thought better of it about getting up. I just laid there and was really quiet. Luckily, nothing came in the camper, thankfully. It takes something with hands to jiggle a door handle. Not saying it was 100% a Bigfoot, but at this point, I'm thinking if the shoe fits, it's time to wear it. Now, there was another guy that had another camper out there. Now, I guess he could have got up, but why would he have just got up to jiggle the handle of the door? Especially when he knows there's a bunch of people with a bunch of guns in the camp. That don't make no sense. But, yeah. So, I guess probably my next encounter, they're going to start happening on Table Rock Lake. My buddy Richard and Richard's my co-host here on Boone County Cryptids. Well, we got to talking at work one night up on his machine, and he's like, "Man, you ought to come out with me sometime," because he'd heard stuff before, and he actually had a rock hit him in the shin one night. He's like, "Dang it, Bubba, you hit me in the shin with your weight. The weight you carry on your fishing line." He's like, "Dad, my weight's back here." So he lifted it. He looked at his leg. And he's bleeding. The rock, whatever hit him with it caused him to bleed. Unless there was some person up on the bank just throwing rocks at people just because. Rock throwing is heavily attributed to Bigfoot activity. And he had one of his other buddies go fishing one night, and they had something whistling at them from up on the bank of the lake. It would whistle. Richard would whistle back at it, and it would do the exact same whistle back. So whenever we got back to work on our next shift, that guy said, "Wyatt, were you up there in the woods whistling?" And me and Richard just, kind of laughed. Why would I be up in the woods whistling, especially at 1:30 in the morning? my butt's in bed at that time. But we decided we're going to start going out there. I guess our first time would have been out in September 2023. Now, this is on Table Rock Lake. This is a lake that is on the Arkansas side and the Missouri side. So we go up there and we get out on the boat. We're floating there. Richard's fishing pretty heavily. I'm kind of fishing a little bit, but I'm mainly listening for Bigfoot activity. We heard a few little things. We ended up seeing a little eye shine. And then when we come around to this one area on the bank, there was this log laying there. And there was this white circle above this log. And we were looking at, while we were shining the light on it, it just disappeared. I mean, it was gone. You were looking at it, it wasn't there anymore. Then about 5 minutes later, we heard the crispest wood knock I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it sounded, and I've said this before, it sounded like two Louisville sluggers being banged together. Just a little bit after that, Richard heard something walking on the bank of the lake. A lot of these encounters, they do happen on Table Rock Lake at different times. We went back out in October, and we were in a different cove than we were that night. And hang on, guys, I'm having technical difficulties. There we go. And we're coming back out of the cove, going back to the main branch of the lake. And I'm looking off to my right. And I'm like, hey, Richard, I think I see something over here on the bank of the lake. So we stop and we start shining our lights, our big spotlight over there. And I'm going to try to pull up. We see this structure over there, and it's in the shape of a teepee. Everybody that's watched any videos on Bigfoot or anything like that, they've heard about structures. Now, I was talking with somebody, and we said this could definitely be a man-made structure, because when you look at this picture in a minute, you'll be able to see a couple of white bricks, and there was actually some rope intertwined in this. But I also talked to other people, and they said that, well, I mean, these things have hands. They could easily manipulate these objects to do this same kind of stuff. And there was a bunch of, little clams or mussels, little shells all over that area. There was an indentation in the ground, and I took a picture of that, but it didn't really come out very well, so I didn't even put it on here. Kind of like something that stepped down real hard, but it wasn't in the exact shape of a footprint. It was just an indentation in the ground. So anyway, I'm going to show these pictures real quick. We got it here. I don't know if my cursor is on the screen or not, but there's the white bricks, and there's the structure itself. Now there is a branch in the very back of that structure. Now Richard said he's seen this more than I did, but I didn't really see this at all. But he said it was that stick in the very back of the structure was perfectly balanced on another stick. And for something to have left it there and it stayed balanced as long as it did, that's just kind of weird to me. And when we were leaving this area, we were shining our spotlights on it, and our spotlight went completely dead. And that is also another thing that is attributed to Sasquatch activity. Electronics start messing up. And after we got away from this area, just a little while later, our spotlight started working perfectly fine again. So that was that encounter. So we go back, that was October of 2023. So in March of 2024, we're back out there on the Missouri side. This time we could hear something walking that sounded like it was on 2 feet. We had quite a bit of eye shine as well. When we were leaving, we had them on both sides of us, or we had something on both sides of us. We could hear it walking on one side, and the reason we knew something was on the other side is Richard made a little whoop, like a baby Bigfoot would do, and all of a sudden something off to our left, it started bust the brush and went up into even further into the woods. As close as well as it sounded, as close as it was, we should have been able to look right over there and see something just, big and hairy running up the woods. There wasn't anything there. That's the thing with most of my encounters. We don't see anything. It's all audio, what we can hear. I mean, we found some evidence, but we've not actually got to lay eyes on the elusive creature. Now, May of 2024, we go back out. We're on the Missouri side. This is the first time I cleared leather with my pistol, because it spooked me that bad. But this time we had almost everything happen besides a visual. We heard a knock, and we trolled up to a high line right away that you can go underneath it. You can see the power line going straight across the lake. And I was shining the light up there, and the light went dead again. Number one. And then about 5 minutes after that, we hear the loudest whistle I have ever heard in my lifetime. And that's not exaggerating. It changed octaves as it was going up, as it kept going. So that sent chills down my back. About 5 minutes less later, we heard a pack of coyotes go off right behind us. I don't know, you're going to call me crazy, but I kind of wonder if the Bigfoot weren't using the coyotes, trying to come towards us or, go get us or something like that. There have been stories of Bigfoot using coyotes, kind of like their pets. I'm not 100% saying that's what happened, but so anyway, we turn around and we're heading back out. And on the right-hand side of us, we hear something break a tree. It goes. And that was pretty weird. We troll a little further down, and then off to the other side, something hits the water. I mean, and it sounds big, whatever it was. Richard said, I've been fishing this lake for 30 years, and that wasn't a fish. So what we were assuming, and that's when I cleared leather. When I heard that, I turned around, drew the pistol. I didn't point it at anything. I didn't have my hand on the trigger. I just drew it out of instinct because it spooked me pretty bad. We're assuming it was a big rock that they threw in the lake. Can't 100% prove that. I'm not going to lie, it did go through my mind. What if one jumped into the lake and was swimming towards the boat? Luckily, that wasn't the case, but at least we didn't see it if it had jumped in the water. If it jumped in the water, it went underneath the water and swam somewhere else. But it didn't come towards the boat, thankfully. So we got out of there. I've got all sorts of stuff I could talk about, guys. You guys have probably heard the Combs Ferry story with DA and Robbie. All those. I was on that expedition as well. Matter of fact, I'll pull up one picture about it. We had the deer skin hanging in the tree, and Had one other thing if I can find it here. Give me just a second, guys. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find the picture of the trout head hanging in the tree. The deer skin was too big for me to upload to StreamYard, so I'll try to show that on a different video sometimes. I know I have it because I had it downloaded earlier. I know what I'm doing wrong. I'm not clicking on the right picture. All right, I'm sorry, guys. I will get it in just a second. This is all trial and error anyway, guys. I thank you guys for watching. I truly appreciate it. Success. So when we were on the Combs Ferry expedition, we had the deer skin hanging in the tree, and we also had this. We've dubbed this the elusive Missouri tree trout. You guys can tell by looking at that. The edges are jagged, the eyeballs are gone. What we came up with was these were territorial markers. And that expedition, it got pretty hairy there at the end. But anyway, after that expedition, we took DA and the guys back to their boat ramp. We went out and did a little fishing, and we got back to where we put the boat in the lake at, which was at a different area than where we picked them up and dropped them off at. And we found, if I can find it, all right, give me another 1 second. There it is. Anyway, when we got back to where we put the boat in at a different place, we got out of the boat and we found this. Looks like a footprint. At least it does to me. Most of the people I've showed it to, they think it looks like a footprint as well. Yeah, we got there. This was sitting there. I called DA right after it happened and told him about it. Uh, so what kind of bothers me is were they sitting there when we originally put the boat in the water, and then came down and looked where we were at. I mean, you can tell this is pretty deep into the, that pea gravel there. But it's not 100% conclusive. It's a Bigfoot, but it definitely, it kind of looks like it. So anyway, the next month after we took DA and all them, or Richard, we all went together to Combs Ferry. We go back out on the lake. We go back to our normal spot, and we hear what sounds like owls, but they didn't sound exactly like owls. And I've heard Tim Kumbo Baker say that if they don't have the trill at the end, most likely they're not an owl. It's a booger calling. Now I went back. I did take video of this. It's not very loud, but I couldn't hear the trill. No, that was more evidence. Anyway, we go back out of this cove and we go back into the other cove where we actually found the structure the first time. As we're going in off to the left-hand side up on the bank, we see 4 or 5 sets of eye shine. I got to thinking after this had happened and, watching other videos. And I watched this one video of a researcher that had said he had turned around and looked on the ground and there was a dogman laying flat on the ground looking up at him. So later on, that's kind of what I came to the conclusion of because of what I'm about to tell you. Richard, I'm pretty sure my light was dying or had already died at this time, but we were using our headlamps. And he's shining the headlamp up in the trees and stuff. And there was 4 or 5 sets of eye shine, but like 4 of them were laying on the ground. It looked like they were laying flat on the ground. But this other one set of eye shine was not. Richard said it kept poking its head out behind a tree. And finally, whenever he hit it with the light the right way and I was looking, I seen the silhouette of something that looked like it had the snout of a dog. I looked at Richard and I said, that's not a Bigfoot. Whatever I was looking at it had an evil presence to it. I looked in the eyes of this thing, which I've always said it probably wasn't a good idea. But, I felt an evil presence. I'm not 100% saying I was a dog man, but I'm 99% sure that's what it was. So anyway, that goes on for about 10 or 15 minutes. And we decided to leave. And, as we're getting back towards the boat ramp, I called DA. And I'm asking now, how far apart are the eyes of a dog man and all this stuff? He's like, be careful, dude. They'll follow you home. I'm like, they won't follow you home like 30 miles. We were texting at this point. Or maybe I just texted him. Honestly, I can't remember. I was kind of confused that night. But anyway, he's like, yeah, be careful, dude. They'll follow you home. I'm like, well, they won't follow you home 30 miles, right? He's like, well, I wouldn't be so sure. Anyway, so far nothing has followed me home. But yeah, that was our dogman encounter. What I think was a dogman. One night we were out on the lake, and this was before the dogman. Actually, it was before Combs Ferry. I just forgot to talk about it. We were in a totally different cove. This was on the Arkansas side. And we get to going back in this cove, and my hands, they start getting real cold. And I don't know why. It was like 60 degrees that night, and my hands shouldn't have been getting cold. I don't know if it was adrenaline. My adrenaline was already starting to pump or what it was. But my hands were cold. We start going even further back into this cove. And then all of a sudden we hear something start busting the brush. I mean, and It's loud, whatever it is. It's loud. We're expecting to turn the light on and see something, just sitting there shaking the trees. And I'm trying to get the light on. Richard's like, get that damn light on. And I'm like, I'm trying. And finally got it on. Shine the light over there. There's not a thing in the world over there. The trees aren't even moving. But something's making the sound of the trees moving. And it's not showing up. Something's making the sound as well. I don't know. I'd say it bugs me. But I've heard people say they had encounters for almost 10 years before they ever actually laid eyes on one. So I'm hoping my time is soon. People say, be careful what you wish for. I want it to be a distance encounter, 100 yards away or so, where if I can get in the truck and if I need to, I can get out of there. I don't ever want to be the one that has to shoot one of these things. I don't want to have to do that. I want to see it at a distance, have a nice peaceful encounter, get in my truck and go home. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that a lot of times for people. And if sharing these encounters with somebody helps them, everybody sharing their encounters, what if it saves a life one day? Not just my encounters, everybody else that shares encounters throughout the world. What if their encounters save just one life? I mean, if that's the case, there's a lot of encounter stories. If each encounter story saved one life, then we're doing something. So anyway, I'll kind of get off my encounters for a little while, and we'll talk about some evidence. In February of 2021, my dad, or 2022, excuse me, my dad sent me this picture. It's where he's. I'm not going to disclose the location, but it's here in the town that I live in. This is in a city, beside a dumpster in the snow. You guys can tell there's a human boot print next to it. I believe that's my dad's boot print. He wears a size 9.5 or 10, I believe. So what looks like a Bigfoot track is there in the middle. Now, who knows? This may not 100% be a Bigfoot, but I've showed it to other people, and they kind of agree with me that they think it is one. Now, I got to talking to some guy. I go to the gym up here, pretty close to my house, and this was, I think, last year. He's like, yeah, I bought my dad we'll preface it by saying sometimes I wear my Bigfoot shirts to the gym. He's like, why do you wear that shirt? I'm like, oh, just because. He's like, yeah, well, one time I bought my dad a pair of those, Bigfoot shoes that, have the Bigfoot print on the bottom of them. So that got me thinking, this has been a couple of years after my dad actually sent me this picture. So that got me thinking, well, what if it was somebody wearing a set of those shoes? But when I was on DA and Robbie's show, Robbie got to pointing out, well, look at that track, Wyatt. What do you notice different about everything, all the other tracks? I'm like, well, it's bigger. And he's like, no, not the obvious. He's like, that thing stood there. Look at the bottom of the track. It stood there. It had what we call dwell time. So whatever it was standing there long enough to melt the snow underneath the bottom of it. So we got to thinking, well, it's melting the snow underneath it. It's got to be putting off a little bit. I'm thinking it's got to be putting off a little bit of heat. But it looks like it has 4 toes. And I don't know how to zoom in on it here, guys. But if you're watching it on YouTube, you should be able to pinch in. But what looks like the 3rd toe, notice how it's a little bit bigger. And if you'll zoom in on it, you can tell there's actually another toe in there. So it does have 5 toes. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. My dad sent that to me because he knows I'm into this kind of stuff. See what else we got. All right, I'll show some of these tracks. Me and Richard, we went out and did a little investigating, a little research earlier this year in January. And we go to this place called Three Fields. Richard's actually heard wood knocks there, and I actually had what I thought was a partial sighting one time. We went to put up deer stands. This is a Corps of Engineer land. We went to put up deer stands, and we made it back to this third field. We decided there's not a good place to put a stand back here. And as we were coming out, I hear something bust the brush off to my right. And I get all excited and I look over there, and through just a little narrow crack in the woods about like that, I see something walk by. Now, when I say walk by, it went very, very fluidly, like kind of like it almost floated off. It was dark in color, but that's all I could see of it was just through that narrow gap. So I think that was a partial sighting that I had there. We'd also smelled one at the same spot before at a different time. We walked by the area, and I smelled what smelled like chicken poop. And we came back later across the same area, and it smelled like wet dog. A wet dog is heavily attributed to Bigfoot, especially, the smell. Anyway, we were back out there in January of this year, and Richard and I found this track. It was in the middle of a field. If I can get it to add to the stage. You can tell up in the top corner, the big toe, and then it's got several toes across there. Comes down here, and you can see the heel, and you can tell the ground is smashed down compared to all the other grass around it. This has been heavily flattened. I took a tape measure to it, and I put it in a couple of different areas on the track. One area it was like 12 inches, and then the other area I changed it, and it was almost 16 inches. So the track was between 12 and 16 inches. I don't know which area was the actual right area when I put the tape measure on it. There again, you can see the big toe up there at the corner, and the other toes going across. This is a sideways view of it. Now, guys, I don't know if my mouse is showing up on the screen. If it's not, I'm sorry. I'm trying to point out everything. You can see the length of it. You can see the big toe and the other toes going across there, and how the grass is mashed down. This is a zoomed up version. See the big toe and how the grass is laid down. So anyway, Richard and I, earlier this year, at the end of March, I believe it was, we went back out to our spot. It was our first time out. And we got out there. And when we got to our spot, we noticed it was really, really quiet. And, you couldn't hear bugs. You couldn't hear no bugs. You couldn't hear nothing. So Richard has running lights on the side of his boat, LED strips along the side. And when he turns them on, it illuminates both sides of the lake on the bank. And usually when we turn the lights on, we start having activity. So Richard asked, ready to turn these lights on. We agreed. Turned them on. 5 minutes later, we hear something. We're going back towards the power line I told you guys about earlier. We hear something. Start walking on the bank of the lake. Of course, we shine our light over there. Can't see it like always. But it sounds like it's walking on 2 feet. And it follows us all the way down to the right of way, power line right of way. And we're, thinking, well, we're going to get to see it walk across here because it's following us so good. As soon as we make it to that right of way, it stops walking. We turn back around and start going back out, and it starts following us back the other way. So whatever this was smart enough to know to stop at that right of way and not come out and start following us back on the way out. So anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, man, we need to see some eye shine or something. I'm thinking that in my head. And not 5 minutes later. I know I said 5 minutes later a lot, but that's a pretty good estimate of the time. We start seeing eye shine in the tree. We're just we're using our headlamps and stuff. And I just recently got a new phone when we went out the first time this year. So I'm trying to see what it'll do and stuff, see how good it is. And thankfully, whenever Richard started shining his headlamp up in the trees, I was able to catch some of the eye shine. And I do have an original version of this video. It's like 1 minute long. And it goes really fast. And you'll see the eye shine pop up. It happens a couple times. Then you see both sets of eye shine at one time. Well, anyway, what I did is I went back to that video. I slowed it down to like a quarter of the speed. I zoomed it in. I brightened it up. To be honest, I don't know what all I did. I was just trying to get it to where I could see if there was anything behind that pair of eyes or behind those pair of eyes. So when I did, I got what I'm fixing to show you. I did another one of that video, and I brightened it up even farther. And I might show some of that on here one of these days, but it was a little too bright. But what I'm about to show you is just little clips I took out of that edited video. It may not be nothing, but I've sat here and looked at this video over and over again. And one of it, you're gonna see something turn. And when it turns, you're actually looking at the back of whatever this is. And I thought, oh, that's a raccoon. But that was after the eyes had turned around and that was facing backwards. So the back of it couldn't look like a raccoon's head. But I'm going to show you these videos. And we'll leave that up to you guys. Now, this is actually about a minute into that 5 minute edited video. Like the first minute or 2 minutes is about all you get any footage, eye shine footage. I'm going to play it again. Look real carefully in the center of the photo or the video, and you'll see the eye shine. Now, if you'll notice, right after you see that bright flash of light, you'll see the pair of eye shine. And if you'll zoom in on your YouTube video, when you zoom in on that set of eyes, it almost looks like it's attached to something. It looks like it's attached to a head to me. Now, I could be totally wrong about this. Looks like it's attached to a head. And as soon as that eye shine disappears after the light, it looks like it's ducking behind a tree. Said I could be totally wrong, Play it one more time. There it goes. All right, I'll play another one. All right. You look real close, guys. You'll see the eye shine again. Play it again. It's in the center of the screen. You'll take your phone and zoom in. You'll be able to see it. Right, guys, I sat there a long time, taking my finger over the cursor where you could fast forward it and rewind it. I kept thinking, man, that's a raccoon. That is a raccoon. The more and more I kept there doing that over and over again, that's not a raccoon. That when you see that part, it's actually the back of whatever that is because it turns around, and that's what you're seeing. Uh, you guys be the judge. I'm just showing you what I found, and I know this is an edited video, so but I wanted to see if there was anything attached to the eyes. I don't know if I did it the right way, but this is what we got. All right. And I'll show you the last one. And you guys got to really look at this one. But when I'm looking at it on my phone and I'm first playing the video in the first few this is in the first few seconds of that 5-minute video of the original iShine video that I it's going to be in the left center of this when you zoom in. It looks like a little dot, and the dot goes from up here and bounces down like this and comes over there like this. And the more and more I look at it, of course, I'm looking at it on my phone. More and more I look at it, it looks like it's attached to something when it moves. It almost looks like it's attached to a head, in my opinion. Like I said, it's my opinion. You guys be the judge, but I'll play it a couple more times. If I could zoom it in for you guys, I would, but I can't do that on here. I'll play it one more time for the home team. Oh, well, guys, that's all I really have for you tonight. Uh, After that eye shine happened on that encounter, we kept trolling down out of that cove, and we start hearing owl sounds. And these owl sounds, they didn't sound. They sounded like owls, but they didn't. Then they just started going off into all sorts of weird noises. And I've got a video of this. I didn't put it on tonight, but I've got to get these videos. And I don't know how to do the putting it through a spectrogram, and I don't know how to do all that stuff. I've got somebody that's going to do that, but I haven't got it done yet. But you can hear the owls kind of in it, and I think maybe one sounds like it has a trill, like a real owl. but the others don't. But man, these owls, they started going off. And one over here, one over here, one over here. And they started getting weird noise. They started turning into weird noises. So that stopped. I can't remember the exact details of how all this went down, guys. But then we hear like a coyote howl way off in the distance. Then we troll down a little further. And then, I kid you not, guys, this is going to sound crazy. But we started hearing what sounded like monkeys in the zoo. Yeah, they were getting excited. I've got a video of this too. And actually, we didn't catch this with, our naked ear, like you say, naked eye. But in that video, you hear rocks clacking together. You hear it 2 different times. I thought that was really weird because we didn't actually audibly hear that. We heard it on the video later. But I think we were probably so enthralled by hearing the monkey noises over here that we didn't pay no attention to that. I have talked to somebody, and it could have been owls caterwauling. I mean, we did hear the owl sound, but there was only like one that sounded like an owl. All the rest of them sounded weird. So that possibly could have been owls caterwauling. But after that, way off in the distance, we hear this long howl. It goes on for quite a while. And then I'm pretty sure there's some coyotes that mixed in with it. But man, I wish I would have had a parabolic mic to have got that one, because it was pretty awesome. You could hear it real well. You look at a video and you can't hardly hear it, but audibly you could hear that one pretty well. Anyway, guys, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I know I'm bumbling on. I don't know why I'm more nervous now than I would have been if I had a guest with me tonight. But I just want to thank everybody for watching. Guys, do me a favor if you don't care. Daniel from the Cryptid podcast, he made a GoFundMe for Joshua Smith and his wife from Mysteries Unknown. His wife is suffering from mold toxicity, and it's been really bad on them. They've had to move like 10 or 12 times because every time they'd move, they'd find more mold, and they have to move. They have to pull up roots. Basically, they have to get rid of all their stuff and move on. So Daniel created a GoFundMe for them. And if you guys don't care, just go look at it. If you can't donate, that's okay. But they could use all the prayers they could get right now. And if you really want to help Josh, go to Mysteries Unknown, the Mysteries Unknown podcast on YouTube, and just watch his videos. Subscribe to his channel. If you want to consider doing it, become a member. All those things like that will help them out in this time of need. Go watch my brother Daniel Hamilton's podcast, the Cryptid podcast. Great podcast. And go check out DA and Robbie and Steve and Doc on Nightmare Hunters. They've just recently rebranded that, and it's going really well. Check out Mysteries Unknown, Woodwalkers, Old Line Cryptids, Squatch and Holler. They've all got really good shows. Like I said, if I don't mention you guys, it's nothing against you. I can't think of them all at the same time. But guys, thank you for being here with us on another episode of Boone County Cryptids. Guys, if you've had a personal encounter and you're wanting to get it off your chest, send us an email to that email scrolling across the bottom. Boone County Cryptids at gmail.com. We would love to have you guys on the air. It's almost like therapy, getting it off your chest. I would think about it before you came on the show or anything like that. Just be really for sure that you want to do it. But we would love to have you guys on. And if, Boone County Cryptids at gmail.com. And guys, If you've had an encounter, even if you think it's not that important, every encounter is a piece to the puzzle. And remember, guys, it takes all the pieces to put a puzzle together. Thank you guys for joining us on Boone County Cryptids, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.